Well, We'll come back to that later when we get a chance to. Sorry, Brian, cut you off. On that note, welcome to Star Trek Europa. There were a lot of technical complications today, so we got a much later start than I had wanted to. I know that I have been chastised, probably not as efficiently as will happen later for this technical issue, but that's all right. It happened. I'm your host, as always, Jeff Harvey. You can find me online at all the places, Studio Tembo. There's a link in the link tree. There's a link tree in all the stuff. You'll find some stuff there. I just renamed my YouTube channel because I finally reached the milestone for YouTube that I can have a vanity
nice
URL. So that's cool. And it's now just YouTube/Studio Tembo, so now you can literally find me everywhere at that. With that in mind, I've got a couple new shows coming up. I got a new show coming up to come out in April. So more information on that. I don't want to get too carried away with what that is because I'm sure something will come up and I'll have technical issues and it'll be delayed. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and introduce our cast and such. Start with Brian.
My name is Brian. I'm playing Ensign Yezabeth Hage amongst other characters. You cannot find me. Do not try.
All right.
That's a challenge.
Challenge accepted. Evelyn, go ahead.
We'll hunt you down.
I'm Evelyn, and I'm not positive this Twitch stream is running.
It is.
Okay, I believe you.
If not,
it's showing me.
If not, it's being recorded, and that's fine.
We're good. Right, cool. We're good.
All right. I have no idea why Twitch is not working. Okay, then I'm just gonna close this because it's annoying me. That's my whole intro. You can find me on TikTok at Caffeinatrix. Every other weekend, you can find me on Twitch at St. Pete by Night for the vampire game that I'm in. We stream Court. We also stream several other scenes throughout the course of the weeks. So come check us out over there.
A game I'm not active enough in that I'm supposed to be, but I'm too busy doing other things.
I'm giving you another Rob Knows to Hate. I'm playing Dr. DeSavioneat, as I actually have a character and I'm here to do stuff.
All right, Jack, go ahead.
Yes, hello. I am Jack. I will be playing Captain Irani Ambrose, as well as a number of other fantastic characters, though I'm biased. But this is not all I do. You can actually find me in other places, lots of other places, under my own channel, The People's Ascension. I have my own Twitch, my own YouTube. I have my own Discord. You can find all of that. I will post it in the chat, though I am not entirely sure that everything is working. But you can find me over at our linktree / The People's Ascension. We have a lot of cool things coming up. We have, of course, our RPGs Uncovered season that is actually coming to an end. That is all about showing just how quick and easy it is to teach you a new TTRPG, get you into a new game, whether you want to run it or play it. We do bite-sized tutorials and a demo play. Season 2 is coming to an end next week, but Season 3 will be starting up the second or third week in April, and we have a really fun sort of solar punk sci-fantasy Fallout-esque game coming up called Lost Eons. It's going to be pretty exciting. We also this Saturday have a Pathfinder first edition one-shot for the Lugon project setting. We might have another interview, another Whip Workshop interview next week. Stay tuned for an announcement on that, though we do have 2 great Whip Workshop interviews that are already posted on our YouTube. One's a horror game, Shiver, and the other is a cyberpunk deck building game, C22. Both of them are currently crowdfunding, and they look like fantastic games. So go check out what I have going on so I can show you more other things for you to go check out. But do that after this show because I'm excited to get back into the Shackleton.
Yes. Forgive me if I sound hoarse or anything today or congested. I have been sick all weekend, so with any luck, that'll hold out. Let's go ahead and do a recap. Where did we last leave our intrepid adventurers? Not flying an intrepid. Our lunar adventurers. What happened last?
So we'd opened with a scene discussing Eva and the ethical implications of
Restarting her,
rebooting her.
rebooting.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm like, what are we doing to Eva? I've forgotten. I just know there were
Selectively
ethical
wiping
implications.
memory.
Yes. We had a debate over sentience. Tong was very upset. Ambrose was torn. Foxwell. And then we went to Halaroon.
That jerk.
That jerk. Spaced. And got our SSH back. Got some botany samples and tried to set the colonists up so that they could better optimize what they were doing to mitigate not having the impact of the SSH there anymore.
Talked about getting a robot body.
Mm-hmm. Yep, robot body for the SSH. Talked about the merging the two SSHs back together because this one has gained a significant amount of personality and intelligence.
We did do that. They're merged now.
Mm-hmm. The exact percentage ratio is in question, but they have been combined in some form.
Where did we land on the robot body? Did they get permission to do that yet, or were we still?
Not yet, I don't think.
Okay.
I have a note that says pick up with Dasavi and Ambrose regarding the SSH.
Yeah, when we discussed it last time, I think we left off with the SSH discontinuing his presence on the bridge, and then
yeah, he wanted to be of greater use, would be disregarded or disappointed if he were just relegated to that closet. And asked that Foxwell be more respectful about poking about in his code.
That's about right.
And that's all I got. Oh, he would like some autonomy.
It may not be live on Twitch, but we're live on literally everything else. So I don't know what's going on with that. But all right. So with that in mind, we're going to press forward. And I'll just upload the video after. So we start the show with, let's assume Dasavi going to talk to, well, it depends. Do you guys want to start right where we left off, or did you want some time between? I know we're heading towards the star systems that are yet unnamed because Brian really wanted to name them.
The Valley of Plenty.
The Valley of Plenty. Yep, that is the cluster of worlds where there are a number of class M or at least inhabitable worlds. So that includes the various classes, class I think L and whatever else. There's a bunch of different ones.
L and M.
Yeah.
N might be habitable, but I think it's like super extreme.
Right. So there's class K is inhabitable by humans with artificial biospheres. L, M, P, and K if you read some of the I'm sorry, F and P if you read some of the extended stuff. So there you go. I made a list. I've spent the whole day doing the new star systems. So the one you were heading to in particular was a world that had, or a system that had several planets and a class and a gas giant that also had several moons around it that were noted to be
up to 50 habitable worlds.
Yes, throughout the whole of the Valley of Plenty. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that wasn't the one system. That's the whole Valley of Plenty, which is a conglomeration of star systems.
Still a large number, but
still
okay, not in a single system.
Not a single system. Yeah, no.
Gotcha.
Just make sure that's made clear. So the first system you're heading to appears to have 7 total planets, with several of them being class M. You're not there yet, so you haven't had a chance to really investigate yet. But there are 7 total planets, and a number of them are considered to be class M or somewhere in that area. Inhabitable, that's the word I'm looking for. They're inhabitable, and they have a class. There's a gas giant there that has several inhabitable moons as well. So, knowing that that's where you're headed, where did you guys want to start off? I know that. Desavi had just talked to the SSH. Other than that, there wasn't a lot. I don't think we left a whole lot open last time.
We don't have
I don't
any
think so.
standing order aside from go and explore at the moment.
That's right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if Desabi wants to have a conversation with Ambrose about the SSH, we can do that, or we can jump ahead to the plot.
Let's start there, and then we'll see where we go from there. That'll get us at least to the intro, and then Desabi. So you guys are in the captain's ready room, I assume, and you can have your conversation. It'd also be a good time to talk about anything else you wanted to talk about as far as Eva and Dr. Foxwell and all that stuff goes. So. Good recapping place. It's all you guys. It's not the captain's quarters. That's a weird, different conversation.
I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, you go ahead. You and Ambrose are in the captain's ready room
Okay.
to have any discussions you wanted to have as far as your concerns about the SSH's requests, anything else you guys want to talk about as far as Foxwell and all that stuff goes.
No, I got all that.
Keep it short.
I was more to your mutterings about
Oh,
Captain's quarters.
I'm literally just muttering. I was trying to find the ship, the room for the ship, and rather than captain's ready room, I gave captain's quarters, and I'm like, oh well, that's going to be a different conversation between Ambrose and Desavi.
Right.
So, why are you here?
happening to my inner Riker captain.
All right, so there you go.
right.
You're all set.
The SSH has some requests.
It's unusual for a hologram.
Well, we did put him in an unusual situation.
I suppose that's true. What are these requests?
He seemed a little put out that the lieutenant just went looking about his code without asking. He would like a little more autonomy. He seemed very much to, unless I'm misinterpreting what he was saying, he seemed to want to share control of the ship with Eva. He said she was preventing full integration, and he's used to commanding an entire station. He, quote, find myself with nothing to do. Take an empath to figure that one out.
So now we have not one, but two headstrong, sentient computers.
I'm certain Foxwell would argue sentient, but yes, so it seems.
Well, they're certainly causing sentient trouble, sentient-like trouble. Okay, I believe this was really that long ago. I do believe this was something that was brought up at the time with Hage and Shabert and Ava. An extension of the hologram program. It wasn't meant to run continuously. It was meant, I'm sure, as you are aware, to act very similar to your EMH, which, from what I understand, has operated for half an hour here, half an hour there, whenever needed.
Yes.
So what does it want?
He would like a robot body. With the request of some sort. He said that he is proficient with hand-to-hand combat, could perform weapons maintenance, could prove a useful addition to away missions.
The original program was meant as an emergency supplement to any sort of defense against boarding actions. It is programmed for combat and defensive maneuvers. Starfleet, to my knowledge, hasn't developed mobile units and downloadable robotic bodies. Hasn't really been much of a concern. I can see the tactical benefit of it. I'm sure there are plenty down in engineering who would like a chance to tinker around on some of the HoloEnd technology. I'm not against it, but I would classify it very similar to any of our shuttle pods or fighter craft.
What do you mean?
To be used on away missions, not to strut around in a mech suit in the hallways.
Well, he did specify that he would like a humanoid surface droid for small missions and strutting around in hallways.
The former is acceptable on a probationary basis. The latter, we have holographic emitters in strategic positions. That should be all it needs.
I don't disagree entirely. I do think there could be, in certain circumstances, a benefit to having an extra pair of hands for repairs on the ship, things of that nature. There is a bit of a paranoid fear that gains enough sentience could decide to revolt.
Space geese.
Space
I'm
geese.
gonna call someone. I'll be right back.
I was fine until you said space geese.
No, that dropped me. What were you saying?
There was some possibility for a revolt.
Yes.
Quit playing around with the comms.
I don't know where the geese came from, Captain. They're boarded.
Hang on, geese.
We've been boarded.
They're like tribbles.
Oh fuck. Ooh. Okay. There is a sort of maybe overly paranoid concern that he might gain enough sentience and decide to revolt. I'm out of my
From
depth.
who?
SSH. If we put him in a
The
robot
SSH is concerned that he may revolt.
Oh, no. I am concerned that he may revolt.
I mean, I think the crew is pretty concerned about that. It's come up in the past.
Maybe. I mean, Eva has yet to fully revolt, but she did do a pretty good job of shutting the EMH down and locking us out of several systems.
Eva, for all intents and purposes, is the ship.
Mhm.
We can override their stop gaps. She's not irrevocably connected to everything.
Right.
But if there was going to be a problem, it would be from her. Of course, I'm not sure how a year at a incredibly advanced alien station may have changed this hologram.
Right.
We should probably have Foxwell take a look at it. And if it is concerned about its privacy, then I suppose politely suggest that Foxwell at least put on a facade of treating it more equally. Appease it, at least for the time being. We need to know if there's anything wrong with its code, if it's going to be a problem, if it's spreading, adapting more than it should. From what I understand, these holograms are capable of adapting their own code as needed. They have a heuristic learning. Paige would know more about that.
Question is, since we don't really have a basis for comparison, how do we determine if
We have the
SSH has expanded beyond what it should?
we have the EMH. They're essentially the same code. They simply replaced medical information with security and technical information.
But the EMH hasn't had the same experiences. So you're talking, has the SSH expanded beyond what it ought to have based on the experiences that it's had for the last year?
I'm more concerned about established Starfleet safety parameters.
Okay. Okay.
If it's found some way to expand its programming into actual hardware storage space that it should not be able to get at, into deeper access into the computer, into the bioneural gel packs, if it's capable of competing with EVA's own systems, that's something we need to know. Otherwise, it's a fairly restricted system. I suppose this is the same conversation that Foxwell tried to broach during our last conference, selectively rebooting an AI.
Right.
Again, we now have two headstrong, possibly sentient computers who are eager to grow. And I don't, personally, I don't, and I don't think Starfleet knows where that falls on our prime directive. But my biggest concern is the security of this ship and its crew. I instructed Foxwell to make sure that there are extra safeguards and stopgaps in place if we need to disconnect, temporarily shut down, or completely eject EVA. I would suggest that we do the same for the SSH if it is even capable of extending itself to a dangerous new position.
Right. Which it entirely may well be. I'm certain it learned a significant amount about being a station.
There's probably a wealth of information there.
Mm-hmm.
I know if after this assignment I was demoted back down to a lowly ensign in the weapons locker, I would be quite upset.
Indeed. I mean, his concerns are valid. I don't disagree with that. It's disconcerting that he has concerns and what that means, and I really do think that Foxwell and the rest of Starfleet are willingly blinding themselves to the possibility of sentience.
I think these are issues that should have been resolved back on Earth, or on whatever institute planet, not out here. It's hard enough dealing with a humanoid crew, let alone one and now two programs that seem to be capable of directing their own evolution. There are hollow emitters, many more hollow emitters now than there used to be on the ship. We've made that infrastructure change to help facilitate EVA. I see no reason why we can't extend the same welcome to yet another holographic entity. But as for now, I don't think that its role aboard this ship warrants change. We can requisition one of those robotic bodies, and we can store that in the hangar bay for use on away mission should it be deemed an appropriate asset.
I do believe we have one already.
And if the SSH would like to show the initiative that any young officer would in pursuit of promotion and greater duties, it's welcome to do so. And it can go through the same process everybody else would. Does that seem fair?
To be perfectly honest, Captain, I have no idea what fair is when it comes to couldn't be sentient AI, but I think it's a decent proposal.
Let's start there. Keep up with this matter, though.
Absolutely.
As first officer, you are in charge of personnel issues, and I suppose we now have a new holographic member of our personnel for you to deal with.
Teach the EMH any new tricks. No.
All right. Seems a good place to stop. All right, we're back. So hopefully we're not being invaded by the space geese. All right, with that, Europa arrives in or near the first system. We'll say in the system. This system has previously been explored by probes only. The most recent probe has already deactivated or moved on, I should say, to the next system. It is an A-type star, which is a blue-white star. It is very large. It is very, very old. There are several other solar masses around the sun and such. And the sun is approximately twice the size of Earth's normal sun. So before we get going too deep, let's go ahead and the crew is conducting the normal type of things that you would see on a starship when you first enter a new unexplored system. The sounds on the bridge are clamoring, and all the sensors are beeping, and the scientists are far more ecstatic than anyone has the right to be for a bunch of rocks that have been discovered. But there's a lot of buzz going around the ship at the moment, a lot of excitement. Everyone's really moving along. So go ahead and have whoever the science person is going to be, which I think is in this case, Elizabeth, since Foxwell was your science guy, but I'm not going to make that role for you. I think Elizabeth becomes the chief science person by default. Or O'Connor, I suppose, could do it, or you both could, really.
I would think we're working together.
I would think that every department on the ship is currently working together.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say that it's not just the science department. Maybe I think most people on the ship would be excited.
I would.
Here we are.
I would think.
Here we are getting to make our own brand new discovery.
The Europa is the first Federation starship to ever enter the system. So big deal, big news. So yeah, go ahead and give me a science roll. The ship can assist if you want to roll the ship there, Jack.
What are we rolling for? Like, what are we studying in this case?
So this will be the basic gist of the system. This is the overarching view of the system as a whole. So sensors would work.
So a long range scan of the entire system.
Yes, long range is you're in the system already, so you're scanning now all of the worlds and getting a baseline control for the system, I guess.
Sure, long range might be the wrong term. Okay. Yeah, Elizabeth is happy to do it. She's gone and recalibrated the sensor pod to send out a energy signal throughout the system, so that way when it bounces back, she can map it on the astrogation display. And she's even arranged to have it piped into the bridge, so the bridge can get a real-time view of the system as the sensors come back. So
I believe last session we also discussed that the Europa's modular laboratories will be set for planetary science, so you will get the advantage for that for this role.
Great.
Difficulty is otherwise would normally be 2. Difficulty is 1 because you have your advantage. So go ahead and make the roll with the ship, and whoever wants to take the lead, either O'Connor or Elizabeth can make the main roll, someone assist, and then the ship can assist. So
Okay, since Elizabeth has set all this up, why don't you make the main roll and O'Connor will assist?
Okay. I rolled 1.
okay, the ship apparently failed.
Eva.
She's busy fighting with that. That's a 20 even.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's a complication.
That's a complication. So, and then 1. So you've got 2 with a complication. So you have the base information from the scan and an additional 1 question with a complication. I'm going to set the complication to be that there is a lot of interference coming from the star, which will make future scans slightly more difficult, basically negating your sensor, your laboratories until you can do away with that complication. So, but there's a lot of interference from the sun. It is a blue sun. It is very hot. It is very old, about 961 million years old. You get there are 7 worlds that range somewhere in the sun's habitable zone, which is anywhere between 2.65 AU and 5 AU, somewhere in that area. The planets that you have are 1 class L. You can write these down if you want to. I've got them if you don't. 1 class L, 1 class P, 1 class F, 1 class M, 1 class J. Those are the ones that are inside the habitable zone. The class J is not within the habitable zone. The other 2 are not within the habitable zone, are not inhabitable at all. The large giant gas giant has 1 tidally locked moon and 4 other moons that appear to be inhabitable. So a total in this system of, I think 7 or 8 inhabitable worlds. I can't remember. 4.
1 tidal locked and 4 habitable moons.
Yep. So you have a total of 8 habitable worlds in this system alone.
So is this the one we previously designated J5?
Yes.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Questions. Let's see.
It's a lot of science information to throw at you, but you know.
Yeah.
There are also 8 significant asteroids, 43 other comets, and 10. No, sorry, there are 8 protoplanets, 43 significant sized asteroids, and 10 comets in the system. So,
which planet or planetoid seems to have the most potential for life?
that's fairly easy. The 4th planet is an Earth-like temperate class M world. So
4th planet from the sun?
yes.
I would like to designate that one Berry Bush. So it's the 4th planet in the J5 system.
Okay. Designated berry bush now. This planet also has no moons. You can scan further if you'd like. That's your one question. Beyond that, if you guys want to do anything else, we will move in and do additional rolls.
Sure. I will go up to the bridge and I will fill the captain and the XO in with what we discovered. We've done some basic scans of the system. We're getting a lot of interference from the blue sun. We're going to try and recalibrate the sensors to compensate, but I'm afraid this is the best we've got so far. I've tried to figure out which of the worlds has the most potential, and I'm the 4th planet from the sun seems to be very Earth-like. I've gone ahead and you'll see that that's the one labeled Berry Bush. We can call it whatever you want, though. But I figured it was a decent enough moniker for now.
We can use that in reports for now. It sounds better than a long string of numbers and letters.
Well, it has that name too, but it's harder to remember.
I'd say that's a good enough place to start as any. If there would be signs of civilization, it would seem likely to me that they would be on the most habitable planet. Of course, that is habitable for us. Yeah, definitely do see to getting the sensors recalibrated. I'd like to get a better view of the system as a whole, but we should set course for Berry Bush.
While I'm getting the sensors recalibrated, should we organize an away team?
Let's put one together. Yeah, we'll set up an orbit, do some orbital scans, send down some probes. It'll likely be some time before we put boots on the ground. But once we determine everything is safe, even though it's Class M, doesn't mean it's not dangerous in some unknown manner. But we have plenty of scientists aboard that I'm sure would very much enjoy getting down to a newly discovered world. We'll have to set up multiple rotations, I'm sure.
All right, well, I better get back to my sensors.
See to it.
So she'll head off and try and compensate for that interference.
Right. Let's have engineering do the compensation. We can head down to engineering. While Elizabeth is conducting some other stuff and directing. Let's have Tong do the recalibration. I think Tong has sensors, right? No, he's a power systems guy.
Maybe if we can reroute more power to him.
Yeah.
We can compensate that way.
More power to the whatever is needed.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Elizabeth can roll to assist and do it.
Yeah, that'll work. So Elizabeth, you head down to the engineering section, the sensors engineering section, the sensor maintenance, with Tong, and you guys can have a little conversation there if you'd like. But in the meantime, you guys can roll.
Elizabeth climbs down the ladder and says, if only we could get more power. Is there any way you can juice the engine, juice the sensors a little?
Oh, there's always more power. Just depends on where we want to draw it from.
I don't know. I'll leave that to you.
Life support.
Space keys containment.
Space keys containment.
No, I can siphon off little bits here and there all over the place. Nobody will even notice. No.
Unless I screw up, and then nobody will be alive to care.
Okay. Control engineering.
Would my troubleshooting focus play?
No, but you have sensors.
Yeah, fair enough. That's my assist.
Nice. If I'm reading that correctly, that is 4 total.
The ship will,
and
the ship will also
the
assist.
ship.
I got that.
All right. Cool.
Eva does not help this time either. Eva's having struggles today. So that is 2, 3, 4, 5. Difficulty is 2 by default. So you've got 3 successes, which will put into momentum. Unless you guys have something else you want to do with them.
Momentum sounds good to me.
Yeah. All right. There we go. You should be able to. Somebody dropped a dime down on that planet. You'll be able to read it from here.
You're a miracle worker, Tom.
All in a day's work.
All right. Anybody else have anything they want to do before we do the next science roll? Nope. All right. Yeah, let's go ahead and stick with that and just do the science roll. Go ahead and do another science roll for me. This will be down in the science labs. Anyone who wants to do science stuff can be a part of that. So.
Oh, about Mills leads this, or not Mills.
O'Connor.
How about O'Connor leads this one.
Let's let Mills lead the science.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Hey.
You know what? I would love to have Kendall assist on this, actually. She's not science, but she's, on the job learning.
Yeah. Planetary Science Lab. I actually have one of those. Look at that.
Hey.
Two with no assist, or no help from the assist.
Alas.
The ship can assist.
Okay. Sensors engineering again, I assume.
This would be sensor science.
Sensor science. There we go.
Yeah, the sensors engineering was getting the correction.
Recalibration.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Eva finally woke up. Had her virtual coffee.
Hey.
She's tired of fighting with. She got done fighting with the MH. Or, yeah, SSH. I mean.
SSH. Yeah. Or did the SSH override?
Oh, maybe.
Charged.
So you've got 2 and 2. That's 4. That difficulty would be 1 because you got your thing overcome. So that leaves you with 3 questions to ask. You have 3 momentum for that and 3 momentum that are stored up. You can ask up to 6 questions, or bank as many of those as you want. You've scanned the planet quite thoroughly. There are a lot of life signs on the planet. However, none appear to be humanoid. A lot of creatures ranging from small microbial all the way up to dozens of meters long. Most of those are ocean-bound creatures. There are several large land animals. There's certainly a carnivorous herbivore type ecology going on. There are a number of biomes. Everything seems pretty normal. There are a few areas that appear to be cultivated. Although again, there are no life signs, no humanoid life signs on the planet, and those areas don't appear to be currently tended. So there's no like concentration of life signs in those areas, but there's large areas of like what almost looks like cultivated plant life.
Um, when you say it doesn't seem to be tended, like it had been cultivated at one point and has been left to go farrow.
No, they are currently cultivated, but there is
Okay,
no one.
currently
Yeah, there is no one. There's no one there cultivating it, but that appears to be cultivated, as in like
Got you.
within the last growing season.
Okay.
So I imagine Cadet Oniet is sitting at O'Connor's shoulder, like helping her sort through the readings that are coming in, and she's just staring at like the field, through the visual scans, and she's like, "Do you think that somebody's been working this soil?"
It would appear so. It's very odd that there are no. Well, I suppose not really odd necessarily. It could simply be that we're not that the more advanced inhabitants of this planet are not humanoid, and we're not calibrated for looking for the correct life signs.
Can I interject Varen in here as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Please do.
It is also possible, as we have, as Starfleet and many of its constituent civilizations have formed their own garden planets simply for the use of agriculture. This could be somebody's world, or at least a small settlement who uses this as seasonal agriculture.
Boy, I'm sure it would help if we had a sample of whatever they're growing down there. It must be important if they've dedicated a whole world to it.
Connor just lights up at the idea of getting samples of alien botanicals.
I would be wary of, or she would say, you should be wary about trespassing on unknown territory. One does not like pests in their gardens.
I'd like to use one of our questions, if that's okay.
Yep.
How can we tell what phase of the life cycle these crops are on? Are they near harvest? Have they just been planted?
They're probably early growth. They haven't flowered yet, but they're not knowing the plant's full life cycle. It's hard to say for sure, but they don't appear close to harvest.
Okay. Well, I'm sure they wouldn't mind a little sampling.
It may be possible to beam a small sample aboard and after study beam it back to where it previously was, undisturbed.
That would be tricky transporter work, but it probably could be done.
The good doctor does make a point. Doctor, right?
Yes.
Specialist.
Specialist.
Whatever the Vulcan Science Academy equivalent of doctor is, she is not Starfleet.
She is no question doctor level though.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Specialist makes a point, and O'Connor looks a little crushed. We should, before we go trampling about either in person or via transporters, we should try to find the inhabitants and make contact and
We should look for signs of signage. If one were to establish territory here, it is likely that it is marked in some way.
Like a flag in a hill.
This does also appear to be recent, and therefore there may be other facilities on this planet or on nearby planets or moons that may act as supplementary facilities or the more permanent location of whoever is using this seasonally.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Well, that sounds like a good question for us to use our momentum for.
Yep. Remember that your focus was on the planet, so you don't have the question. You wouldn't be able to ask questions about
Mhm.
other worlds, but you can certainly ask anything about this one.
No, but we
but
can look for
further
things like-
infrastructure for civilization.
Right.
Mhm.
So when
Landing pads.
you're scanning around for additional what you would recognize as infrastructure, the only thing you really find is there are some stonework cairns to the south. It looks like there are large swaths of prairie land. There's a large herbivore type bovine, for lack of a better term, that roams that area, and there appears to be like a large, obviously constructed stone cairn to the south part of that. That is the only other structure that you can find in the vicinity. But there do appear to be several spots that are flattened out and compressed soil that could possibly be something like along like a landing pad, but they're not paved. It's all just soil.
Cairn, as in a small monument or burial.
Could also be a
Designation.
place to store food, or it could be burial. It could be. It's hard to say for sure, but it's a generalized term for structure of some sort.
Stone structure.
Mhm.
Would we be able to get any sort of, with the focus having been on the planet, any sort of signatures, warp or otherwise, from potential vehicles?
Nothing active.
Okay.
Nothing within the decay rate of activity. So,
Okay.
so Karen basically just means heap of stones. So
Mhm.
it could be almost anything.
From my archaeological standpoint, it usually designates burial, but yes, it can be really any small stone structure. Yeah.
So Vren would know for sure that Stone Age civilizations and even up through really the late Bronze Age, cairns were used as a lot because you didn't have ways to keep things cool, but stones keep things cool. A lot of times meats and vegetables and fruits and things like that were kept in large stone cairns that were largely like buried, just to help with to cooling and things like that. So that is definitely a possibility. Could also be funerary, similar reasons.
Is there any evidence of subterranean civilization, large cave networks or subterranean cities? Any sign of exhaust or unusual heat beneath the surface?
Nope.
Okay.
There do appear to be cave systems. They don't appear to be man-made. They don't appear to be excavated cave systems, but what you would expect really from a geological structure, the age of this world. There may be usage there, but there's nothing that seems out of the ordinary for a world of this type.
Without there being any sign of current civilization on this planet, there must be some other nearby habitable world, planetoid, which houses the occupants who utilize this space. It is unlikely that a nomadic Stone Age people would utilize architecture or utilize agriculture in this manner without the corresponding architecture.
Not to mention, I could have sworn that patch was a shuttle pad if I didn't know any about it.
Yeah, the couple of pads that you find that are compressed earth like that are a little bit larger than like the peregrines. So they did something along the size of like a large shuttlecraft could land on them, or looks as though it has, it is that size, that scale. So like I say, like a scale 2.
It may be wise to send out a broadband communication announcing our presence in the system.
Kendall says, that's a good idea. Let me run it up the chain of command. So she'll send the message to probably her mother. She's going to say, I mean, Commander, we've been looking at some of the planetary scans, and we think that there might be some civilization here, advanced enough to have liftoff capabilities. Specialist Varen recommended that we send out a broad spectrum comm just in case just in case somebody's here.
Very well, Cadet. Thank you. I'm gonna turn and look at Ambrose.
That's certainly interesting and probably a wise idea. You can sense, obviously, as a Betazoid, the many years of tactical training telling him to drop into yellow alert, but then realizing that raising shields and waving a hello message are kind of conflicting signals. I think that would be wise before we go trampling around. If this system is claimed by somebody, we don't need to start a galactic incident before we even establish first contact. I would like to determine what level of society we're dealing with. If they're capable, let's keep this hail within the spectrum of close to our own. We don't need some pre-warp civilization picking it up on radio waves.
Silva will say, aye, Captain, I can open the channel for you whenever you're ready.
Go ahead.
There's a little chirp as the channel gets opened.
This is Captain Arati Ambrose of the USS Europa. We hail from a federation of planets far from here. We have sent probes to this system, which you might have realized. We are simply a people of exploration. If you can hear this message, we would very much like to meet you. We have found evidence of civilization on one of the planets here and are hesitant to trespass on any claimed land. But if you are out there, we would very much like to meet you. We will remain within the system for some time. Please respond at your leisure. I look forward to speaking with you. No. Yeah, he'll nod to turn off the transmission and send it out on loop.
She'll run it through basic translation algorithms, to like transmit in case, it's a standard language, and just keep broadcasting on repeat.
Okay. Obviously with the, qualifying encryptors to keep it away from pre-warp civilizations as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, all right. You do not obviously get an immediate response. So that is out there in the universe.
I would suggest while we wait, we try to do as much uninvasive scanning as we can. We can still get plenty of biological data from simple observation without having to put boots on the ground or transport anything off the surface.
Speaking out of character, is there anything else we can get without setting boots on the ground?
I can answer a lot of questions. I mean, I have this stuff all fleshed out. I don't know how many questions are going to be useful for you guys, but I can answer a lot of questions. I have gone way overboard with this.
I would say, for sake of pace, why don't we start beaming down?
Well, we can take an opportunity to. You guys are still observing. We can take an opportunity to do things like your holodeck stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure.
So
yeah, we should time skip, but
yeah.
I mean, if we sit around for 2 weeks and nobody responds, yeah, let's put boots on the ground.
Right.
But being like, hey, hello, we're gonna wait for you to show up.
Let's beam down.
Start picking stuff.
I
Right.
get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
So yeah, let's go ahead and do some side stuff. Let's go ahead and take 5 minutes
Yeah.
because let's do that. And then we'll come back to an indeterminate amount of time possibly passing and things like side stuff. So,
Sounds like a plan.
all right. Yes, the final countdown. I love it. With that, let's go ahead and pick back up. We know we wanted to do a holodeck encounter between, was that Silva and Tong?
Mhm.
All right. So Silva and Tong are on the holodeck. It's been an indeterminate amount of time later, some commercial span later.
We'll play out the invitation to the holodeck.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think Silva's going to find Tom off duty when they're both off duty. And she's going to say, I hate it when they're doing full scans. They take forever.
Really, I just optimized the sensors. They should be taking less time than normal.
Well, yeah, but that's still too long. Back in the day, explorers used to be much more hands-on. You found a place, you went there. You put pythons in rocks and you climbed up it. That's it.
How far back in the day are you going? This has been standard procedure for like 200 years.
Sure, I'm talking about before that. In like the ancient world.
Right.
Let me show you what I mean. I just got the newest chapter of this holo drama I'm a part of. I've been playing it. And it's got a primo part for another person. And I've been using the computer, but to be honest, I could use another person. You interested?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that sounds exciting. What are we doing?
Perfect. She'll walk over to the replicator. Computer, replicate one brown fedora. And then when it appears, she's going to grab it. She's going to walk over to Tom, plop it on his head. And,
how old is this?
They used to dress so strangely, but don't worry, you'll look great. And then I think we should cut to the holodeck.
Yep.
So bring computer, bring up program Silva 6, Chapter 2 of the Tabitha Smythe Adventures.
They come up. The various elements begin to phase in very quickly, as you would expect.
So she'll explain it to him. So this is Chapter 2. Lady Tabitha Smythe and her swarthy companion, Senor Captain Rodrigo, that's you, have just found the ancient entrance to the world beneath, a hollow cavity underneath underneath Earth.
The Earth is hollow? We talked about this before.
Well, no, it's not. But just pretend if it is for like 5 seconds. That's all. I think at some point
This is only a 5-second program. We're not going to be here very long.
No, that's not what I meant. Look, just be dashing. You can be dashing, right?
I can be dashing.
Perfect. Computer, start program. So she'll begin climbing down the stonework into the village of the Morlocks, the creatures that live at where ground meets sky in the hollow cavity.
Shouldn't we have grav harnesses for this?
You kidding? Real adventures don't use ground harnesses.
That seems unsafe.
Of course it's unsafe. If you back then, if you wanted to be safe, you'd stay home. If you wanted to live dangerously, that's when you became an explorer.
Yes. Capital investment in danger.
Sure, let's go with it.
Tentatively grabs a rope and starts.
I don't think we need to play out more of what do you guys want to play out with this? Do you guys have any idea?
No, it's fine for now.
This is your scene.
Yeah,
was thinking
in the future in the future we can talk about what these adventures actually are, and I can run more stuff with it. But like I don't really know a whole lot about what the adventures you were going for were. Now I do. It's Hollow Earth stuff, and I'm all about that because that's one of my favorite RPGs actually.
And you want to roll a montage? Roll a montage.
Yeah,
That's honestly what I was picturing when you guys were talking about it in chat.
Yeah, why don't we do like a little montage? That's a great idea. And of just we'll describe kind of what the two do together, and then
that sounds good to me.
And then we can wrap up the scene.
Yep.
Sound good to you, Jack?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. So I think the two of them go down. They talk with the Morlock chieftain, get permission to pass into the great cavity, and at some point she's going to ask Tom, did Ferengi ever travel like this, or did Ferengi ever explore like this?
Ferenginar's not hollow, and I
Well,
don't think we have any fish people.
Well, neither was Earth, but there were places on Earth that people used to explore, like this.
Well, we sent out plenty of ancient mining consortiums and logging consortiums and plenty of consortiums. Yeah, all around the planet. Exploited everything we could.
That's not how we did it on Earth. Wait,
Are you sure?
no, I guess that is kind of how we did it on Earth. Boy, I never thought that that's actually what Lady Tabitha Smythe is actually doing here. Anyway,
Humans and Ferenginar have a lot more in common than you all seem to admit to.
I guess so. But we have dinosaurs.
Great minds. No, I don't believe we had any dinosaurs. Very large bugs. No dinosaurs.
Oh, next time we'll do a Ferenginar program. I've always wanted to fight a giant bug. Speaking of which,
Oh, you don't. Well, you could fight them.
now, okay, so I know about this next scene where right before we fight the Spinosaurus. Here's
Are they like the fish people?
No, it's a big dinosaur with a fin on its back. There's one thing though, and I wanted to talk to you about this before we do it. You see, the thing about Lady Tabitha and Captain Rodrigo is they're kind of seeing each other.
I would hope so. It's be very difficult blindfolded.
I mean, they're in a romantic tete-a-tete.
I'm not sure my translator picked up that one.
Uh,
Is that French? I'm not very good with other Earth languages.
it's old Earth for they flirt a lot. And so right before this scene, they kiss.
Leans in, kisses him.
Yeah, I think she will. No, I think she would first say, does that sound okay to you? For the holo program.
Right, for historical accuracy or literary accuracy.
Perfect. And so she'll lean over, she'll kiss Tom on the lips, and then she'll pull out her revolver and say, for luck, and then dash into battle.
All right. Ends on the dinosaurs rearing up and roaring.
Yeah.
All right.
She charges off. Tom gets as red as Ferengi can get.
His ears turn blush.
Yeah.
All right. I like it.
That's about all I wanted out of that scene. So
Yep, that's good. I like that. It furthers the stories. All right, let's go to make that science roll that I talked about. Just give me a science roll to basically do the scan for the remainder of the worlds. This is not an in-depth scan; it is a general purpose scan to ask questions about structures and things of that nature. Other life signs, you're not getting deep into the other worlds and like orbiting them and doing deep tissue scans kind of stuff. But it'll allow you to ask a relative number of questions about any of the other worlds in the system in relation to the findings you currently have. So go ahead and make that roll. Let's go ahead and say that I would say either Varen, O'Connor, or Yezabeth can be the lead. Any of those three can also be the follow-up or the assistant, and Eva can assist. Difficulty would normally be, or the normal difficulty is 0. You have the proper sensor package, so you have 1 automatically. So you go from there. As long as you don't fail the roll, you should be fine.
Is it okay if I roll with Yesbeth? That cool with both
Right
folks?
ahead.
Yep.
Okay. Because I forgot that my operations manager position actually plays right into this. So I got 1 plus my operations manager. If the task is assisted by the ship's computers or sensors or a tricorder, it generates 1 bonus momentum. So which I can use for information.
All right, Jack, can roll the ship.
Yeah. Plus, doesn't the ship have high resolution sensors? I think that gives us bonus momentum too.
I'm not sure.
Let's see. I'm dealing with a crisis of my own real quick.
Okay.
We are sensor science again. We're doing another scan.
Yes. So sensor science,
Okay.
Advanced research facilities, advanced sensor package,
Mhm.
modular laboratories. So there you go.
Yeah, the advanced research facilities gives us an extra question.
Yeah, the talents aren't clickable, so I can't see what they actually do. But
Yeah,
I can roll
they're-
the dice.
If you click the ship, they're all listed on that.
Yeah, it doesn't say what they do though. You just have,
Yeah.
you have to know those.
No. If you go to the bio and info page, I've got them all written out.
Oh, do you?
Cool.
Yeah. Mhm.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, they're there.
So that's 1 from Eva.
All right.
So 3 successes and 2 bonus questions.
Reduce difficulty task by 1. Modular labs. Advantage. Okay. So yeah, the ship is very good at scanning stuff. So let's say you actually have 3 additional questions because of the way the ship is built, with advanced sensor sweeps, the research facilities, and the modular labs all working. Plus your thing that you've got. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 6 questions.
Okay, so I think our first question should be: are there any other any other man-made facilities on any other planets in the system?
Okay. A couple of the moons on around the J5 gas giant have what look like metallic frameworks. Not really structures so much as frameworks. They're clearly metallic and they're clearly man-made. Well, not man-made, but you know what I mean. Alien construction. Artificial. Yep.
Where did you say this was?
They're on one of the moons around the large gas giant.
You said 3 of them. We can designate those Mo, Larry, and Curly.
You're naming right.
Those are satellites of J5s, and they have artificial structures. Okay. What are the atmospheres of those satellites?
All 3 are class. Mo and Larry are class M, and Curly is a class L, which is barely hospitable. Marginally habitable with no vegetation. Marginally habitable with vegetation, but usually no animal life.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
What are these structures? What purpose does it look like these structures served?
Best guess is they probably they look similar to space dock, like the structures where the ships are repaired, not the actual space dock, but those frameworks that go over top of the ships. You know, they look like that, but they're on the ground. They look similar to that, but they're on the ground, and they're large enough to fit
scaffolding.
They're scaffolding, yeah. They're large enough to fit probably a tightly fit a class 3 ship, a size 3 ship.
Interesting.
But it looks more like a warp-capable vessel than like a NASA launch pad.
Oh yeah, definitely something that is transatmospheric. And this is way more advanced than basic NASA stuff. Like they're not launch pads. They're obviously some kind of like you fly into this and land on it thing.
Okay, cool.
There are a number of other structures there as well, but they're due to the alloys and stuff that are being used, you can't really penetrate the actual buildings that are there, or I should say structures that are there. Almost everything is made of, all the buildings around it are also appear to be made of stone largely. There are, obviously, there's the metal frameworks. The buildings themselves, the quote unquote buildings that are there, are largely made of stone. So,
Okay. Are there any landed spacecraft anywhere in the system?
there are not.
Okay.
No ion trails, no warp signatures. Doesn't appear to be any, there doesn't appear to be any other ships in the system since the last time your probes were through here.
Okay.
So probably at least a couple months.
Do we want to bank the rest, or does anybody have any other questions they would like to ask?
We've got 5 more.
So you said there's no other evidence of long-term habitation.
Not that you're seeing.
Is this specifically for just these 3 moons, or are we looking at the whole system?
The whole system. So let me see. The ice planet probably also has some stone structures. There's a very humid planet with a lot of moons. The very first planet is a class L planet. It's very humid. A lot of moons, like 23 moons. There are stone structures there as well. And that is it. So you've got stone structures on the first planet, the second planet, the fourth planet, and 3 moons of the 5th planet.
This is something Varen could do, and this might be a separate role that we can do later. Does the architecture look comparable? Does it look like the same civilization built these stone structures on different worlds?
Yes.
That's very bizarre. Okay. So in the entire system, we see no evidence of current long-term habitation.
Correct. Transitory is the best you're seeing.
Except for except for the agriculture that we found. Oh, are there any other signs of agriculture on any of the worlds?
Yes, the first world has some signs of agriculture, but it's a jungle world, so it's very difficult to detect a lot of like the plant life there grows quite rapidly. So it's hard to see a lot of, there are signs, but they're not nearly as evidenced as they are on the 4th world, on Berry Bush.
Mm-hmm.
So 1, 2, 4, and 5 all have evidence.
Which type of planet was Planet 2?
Planet 2 is a Class P world. It's an ice planet.
Class P?
Very, very low average temperature, which is odd, especially for its orbit, because it's closer to the sun than. But it appears to be a lot of times in the shadow of natural structures. Like there's a lot of comets and stuff in that ring that, or asteroids and such in that ring that keep it quite shaded.
And what planet was the humid? What position was the humid planet in?
That's the first one.
Oh, so that's the jungle world. Okay.
Yep.
That's a class L, you said?
Yep. Plant life, but usually no animal life.
So the first planet is super hot. The second planet is an ice planet.
Yep.
And then the 4th planet is a garden world.
Correct. Kind of weird.
Yeah. Does the ice planet look natural or the result of some sort of nuclear winter or other such catastrophe?
No, it's natural, but it's an unusual kind of natural. Like it's one of those space phenomenon that you wouldn't see very often. But because of the number of asteroids and stuff that are in a similar orbit to it, it gets shade, heavy shade, most of the time.
Okay. The asteroids form a sort of heat shield.
Correct.
Okay.
Which is a very rare thing to find, but.
So with the other player's permission, I would like to designate this entire system as the Stone Cairn system. And
Sure.
we have 2 unnamed worlds, 1 jungle, 1 ice. We have Berry Bush, the 4th planet, and then we have J5, the gas giant, with Mo, Larry, and Curly orbiting it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
No,
The only
I
thing-
don't know about the Stooges, but yeah, we'll leave that to the proper space scientists back in Starfleet.
How about we call them J Alpha, J Beta, and J Gamma?
It's fine for now.
Yeah.
The other thing that you'll note is that, and this is something that Varen and maybe some of your planetary scientists can figure out, and I'll use one of your things for it. The most advanced change to the system, those asteroids that are being used as a heat shield for the second planet don't appear to have normal asteroidal orbits. They appear to have been placed at some point in the last. I mean, it would take a long time, probably over 1 million years, for the planet to be where it's at, evolutionarily speaking. But those rocks were not probably, those asteroids are probably not naturally there. Those are not naturally occurring defenses for that planet.
So in order for the planet to have developed into the ice planet, because of the asteroids would have had to have been placed there
That's
a
correct.
million years ago.
Yes.
So are the structures then archaic?
Are they equally old?
The structures that you're seeing do not appear to be that old. No.
Okay.
So we'll definitely want to. So out of the things we want to investigate, I think we should investigate those artificial asteroids, and at least one of those docks.
So we'll give you guys 3 additional momentum that you have from that, and you can use them stuff if you want to. But
Most systems, maybe all systems, I don't know, I'm not an astrophysicist, have some sort of gravitational bubble or something around the system itself. Would there be any way that we could look for signs of entry and exit points of ships traveling extrasolar?
I know what you're talking about. Yes. So there are definitely what they considered space lanes. There's a number of them that would go past the gravitational arc of the sun and planetary masses. There's nothing there presently, but the nearest planetary system, the next closest neighboring star system, is 9 light years away. So it's not that far.
Right. Do we have any probe data on that system?
Not at the moment. Yes, but getting through it is going to be hard to do. It's still being processed by the computer.
Okay. The GM is still writing that probe data.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's there, but I haven't written it all out yet.
Yeah.
Fair.
Okay. So this has been a reasonable length of time for our message to play on repeat. Nobody's responding.
Correct.
Sounds like.
Upwards of a couple of days, probably.
So we've done extensive planetary scans, maybe things we can consult in the future, and then we should organize an away team.
How about we call a senior staff meeting about this?
Okay.
Love it.
All right. Senior staff meets in the conference room.
Okay, we've been flying around the system for the past few days now. We've had a welcome message on repeat and have not heard from anybody. I appreciate all of our scientific teams being patient, staying on board, and looking through the spyglass, so it were. But I understand that people are getting antsy to get out and explore new worlds, new civilizations. I'm still When we do send teams down, I would like them to be as non-invasive as possible. Commander Oniet, what are your suggestions? Do you feel we should seek out the, for lack of a better word, owners of this system, those who have set up these structures? Should we deviate to some of the nearby systems and seek out the civilization itself?
Good. I think we are far enough out that they likely have not had any other contact, don't know we exist. As fascinating a find as this is, going down to the planets to investigate without at least attempting to make contact with the people who clearly exist in some fashion is akin to kicking in your neighbor's door and announcing, "I'm here, let me look at you."
I would agree. In my mind, this message we've had on repeat for a few days does not satisfy that, but I know my hesitation may be outweighed by our scientific drive.
If I may, we may find something down there that would help us communicate with them. If we can find out what system they're in, if this cluster is habited, there may be something down there that points us in the direction where the inhabitants reside most of the time.
Very possible. Very possible. I'd be most interested in the stonework down there, the cairns. It's very unusual that there be similar Stone Age sites on different worlds. But at the same time, if these do share some sort of religious, cultural, funerary significance, traipsing around down there could be walking on sacred ground.
I would recommend, Captain, that Specialist Ren take lead. He's going to be our best, our most knowledgeable in how to approach the planets with the respect and caution necessary.
I would agree. I think it may be wise to prioritize the more advanced sites of habitation. These the starship infrastructure we found on those moons. That seems less potentially culturally sensitive than messing with somebody's food supply or areas of cultural significance.
Great.
And if there would be any additional records on where extrasolar entities may be coming and going from, it'd probably be at those more advanced facilities. Less exciting, I'm sure. Keep the scientists on a tight leash, but I'd rather they have full permission to go exploring about than start another war. We all know we don't need another one of those. Any objections?
Nope.
Commander Oniet, I understand that Kendall is interested in pursuing further duties in the command line.
Yes.
Experience with first contact and pre-first contact research could be beneficial to her.
I agree. My only concern is I was actually going to ask if I could go. It would be beneficial to have someone who can scan telepathically and empathetically for minds that maybe our scanners aren't picking up.
I would pay you.
Your daughter is a betazoid, correct, Doctor?
That is a discussion we can have privately, sir, if you don't mind.
Very well. I know it may be a stretch for your own abilities. We've been flying around the system for a few days now. Have you not picked up anything?
Not as of yet. But again, being further out and not necessarily, not so much knowing what we're looking for, but potentially looking for life forms that operate differently than we have ever encountered. Are factors to take into consideration. And there are certain species that are a brick wall. Baby.
Very true. Pausing out of character real quick. Would it be overly complicated to have both Oniets on the ground at the same time? Because I think it would make a lot of sense to send both of you.
I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think your concern is valid, and I think mine is as well. And we need to know that the two of you can work together appropriately. Let's have both of you go down on this team.
You can take Varen as well. Is that what you're going to do?
Mm-hmm.
It's a really weird makeup. We haven't had that before.
Yeah.
And Varen's leading.
And then maybe Koba just
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was going to
Dasabi
suggest
would
that.
suggest Mills over Koba.
fair enough.
I think we'd all suggest Mills over Koba, but
So Koba it is.
But just so we can get Brian in and not have Ev playing three people at the same time.
I'm only playing 2. Well, I would only be
Yeah,
playing,
I'd
but
only be playing 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Kendall is Brian. That's right. That's right.
Right.
I'm not playing my own daughter.
We can
That's right.
also just assign generic
Yeah.
security for the
Yeah.
moment.
Right
Yeah,
now.
that's probably the best.
Is these every other week things? I'm forgetting things.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. So Kendall, Dasavi, and Varen, and then
Red shirt.
indeterminate red shirt, yellow shirt.
All right.
Okay. Again, as non-invasive as possible. If you find evidence of any current habitability, report back immediately. If you do find people in whatever form to make contact with, I would advise refraining from doing so until we can set up proper first contact procedures. Dismissed. Have fun.
Don't touch anything. All right. So the three of you beam down, the doctor, and the doctor's daughter. When you first beam, when you beam down, when the materialization process ends, the first thing that hits you is there's a distinctive odor on the planet. You're on one of the class M ones, so it is definitely safe. It's been scanned. You guys know that.
Vulcans even has sensitive noses.
Yeah. It's a distinctive odor. It smells. You guys ever been in an elephant enclosure? It smells like an elephant
I
enclosure.
cannot.
I've been to a zoo. I'm sure that's close enough.
All right. It's like that. Elephants are very potent smelling creatures. They're very musky. So the smell that you get right now is a very musky odor. It's a hot, humid world near the upper limits of what a class M world would be. The gravity feels slightly off. It's a little bit lighter than you would normally have expected for a planet of this size. Not significantly, but especially for the Vulcan, it is a little more disconcerting.
It's lighter than it should be.
Lighter than it should be.
Gotcha.
But not by much. Like, it's not like someone has done something to the planet's thing. It's just your composition makeup. It might have been a little off. It is noticeable to the humans. It's very noticeable to the Vulcan, who's used to a heavier gravity world. You beam in just outside of the area where the main structures are, and what you can see is there's a light mist over almost everything. It's like I said, it's very much like a jungle. There is a much larger than well, it's as large as you would expected, but seeing it in person, it's a very big structure, a very large stone structure. Think the size of like
we were going to the starship docks.
Yes,
not.
I'm aware. Those are there.
Okay.
There's a stone structure here too. Like I said, all the main buildings that were around that structure are stone.
Okay.
But the metal frameworks are there as well. But I was going to get the structure first. So the first thing you notice is the big structure. It is larger than you would have expected. It is as large as you would have expected from your scans. But seeing it in person is larger than you would expected because it's made of stone. So it is almost the size of like a small warehouse. It's a pretty big structure to be made of stacked stone. The metal structures you see are, again, they look a lot like latticed scaffolding. They're kind of arched up a little bit, so they come up and then they arch over as if to enclose or come over the top of something a little bit. They don't go all the way across like a whole arch, but they come up and arch over a little bit. Then there's a big gap and they arch back down.
Like a rib cage.
Like a rib cage, exactly. And again, those are pretty large. Like you could easily fit the big runabouts in there, and do some and do work on them. And they definitely look to be like there's not a lot of rust on them. There is a little bit of rust on some of the pieces, but the material that they're made out of, the types of metal they are, is a largely rust resistant alloy. So they're probably fairly old, 20 or 30 years that they've been there. The stone structure, it's very difficult to tell because it's a stone structure. The radiation signals that you get in the soil around indicate that whatever comes here uses a high energy fuel source of some variety. It is not necessarily radioactive, but it is definitely something that emits a level of readable residual energy. So if you guys want to make a scan on the planet, you certainly can. You also have 6 momentum at the moment.
The stone structure, obviously you said the metal structure looked like it's somewhere between 20 to 30 years old, but the stone structure, you can't really carbon date a stone structure. I mean, you kind of there, and Star Trek has always been kind of wibbly wobbly about their temporal dating procedures.
Right.
But does it look like it's partially buried at all? Because if it's old, there would be built up ground.
So it looks like it's partially buried, but it doesn't look like it's erosive. Like it's an erosional kind of buried. It looks like it's an intentionally buried kind of structure. So it is semi-buried in the ground, but it looks like it is maintained is the word I'm going to use. It is a maintained structure. You can see that the plant life around it is not growing over it, which would something you would expect in this kind of environment. This whole area between the stone structure and the stone structure is proximal to the metal rib cage. So they appear to be a unified facility.
Mm-hmm.
So
markings of any kind?
Yes, there are a number of markings. They look like carved pictoglyphs. It would take you quite a while to go through them to analyze them, but there's definitely some kind of pictorial language written on some of this stuff.
We'll definitely take image scans of them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, as soon as Varen materializes,
yes,
and she's going around scanning everything, and probably once she notices the pictographs, is just like laser focused on those.
Right. Let's give me a roll that'll be a science roll for the planetary encounter. So we'll say the difficulty is going to be, let's say difficulty is 0. The ship cannot assist, but you do have the tricorders, so you get the advantage of having the tricorder. So go ahead and let's have Ren make the roll since she is the lead scientist here.
What do you mean by the planetary encounter?
These are like base questions to ask about the pictoglyphs, the stuff like that.
Oh,
Like,
just our initial perception of the
yeah, this is like the tricorder, the tricorder scan and all that stuff.
Gotcha.
If we run into a situation where we need more information, obviously we can do another roll, but
reason science.
yes.
Okay.
And then if somebody wants to assist,
Yeah, Kendall will assist.
Would xenoanthropology and or archaeology
yes,
help out? Okay. You said difficulty 0.
difficulty is 0. Yep.
What momentum are we sitting at?
You have 6 current momentum.
Spend
Okay.
that momentum.
Yeah, we don't need to worry about buffing the pool. We're already at max. 2 successes.
Okay. Assist. Oh, you assisted. You got a 0. So with the tricorder giving you an assist, that gives you 3.
Nice.
And we'll set those aside as questions you can ask regarding this. So yeah, basically you have 3. That's everything you've discovered. You have 3 questions you can ask about the stuff that the tricorder may have given you. I mean, you can explore around, move around the setting as much as you'd like, and obviously,
Would one of those questions entail what does the writing say?
That would be more advanced than that. Although a quick glance would give you that they are likely there's at least some kind of tribal marking, and probably some level of like typical things you would see at a work site. So like danger or caution, that kind of stuff. And then there's a series on one of the stone walls. There's a series of things that look like they might be specifications. That's more of less of a pictograph and more of like an actual written language, almost like a kanji, that looks like it probably some sort of specifications. Without knowing the context, you wouldn't necessarily know what they are, but they look like some kind of mathematical reference.
I got a question.
And they're base 10, so you needed to know. That's an important one. Go ahead.
Are there any traces of DNA around?
Yes, lots of plant DNA, also several types of mammalian type DNA. They do not match any known. The mammalian DNA does not match any known species on record.
Does the mammalian DNA, is it like on the lattice and the stonework, indicating that it's not just animal DNA?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
It also sequences in a way that it is clearly a more advanced species.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
I think Kendall is going to kind of wander away a little. She's specifically looking for like food or water sources, because I think it'd be useful to know if they are bringing their own resources to these worlds, or if they're eating the local food or drinking the local water.
Okay. Not too far from where you're at, you can locate a freshwater stream that looks very clean. The sensor, your tricorder reads that it is a spring-fed stream. There are fish life type things in it. It is filtered. It is clean water. Flows in a southerly direction. And then you're picking up a number of edible plants in the area. You don't see any storage of foods externally to the. You guys haven't been in the limestone structure yet, but to where you're where you are right now, you do not find anything that is not natively grown, and there is fresh water.
I'll go ahead and chime into the rest of the team on my communicator. I'll say, I found a small freshwater stream. I think this spot may have been chosen to because of its proximity, if they may not have brought their own resources with them to each of these worlds. They may be relying on the local ecology.
Makes sense. Bringing your own resources with you is taxing, and if you have, well, yes.
Most colonial outposts, if possible, do pick sites of natural sustenance to at least provide a baseline for ease of habitation.
Anything else you guys want to do?
I think we'd like to enter the structure at some point.
I'm just taking your guys' lead. You tell me where you want to go.
Yeah, I would like to go into the structure. Nobody else is going to do.
I am going to assume that unnamed competent security officer Jim Bob we have would do a proper security scan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and make sure
everyone
it's not
follows
like
procedures.
booby trapped or alarms or.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no,
We
everyone
don't
follows
open the door and it
procedure.
explodes.
Nope.
Lieutenant Henley.
So when you go to the door, the first thing you notice is there isn't a door. It is a almost like a Z-shaped kind of like the bathrooms at some places that are open. You go in, turn, go in, turn, go in, and then you're in the main structure. So it is open air, but it is definitely defensible or private. When you enter into the room, there is a surprising amount of actual technology in there. It is independent consoles, and it looks like boxes of hand tools and computer interfaces and things like that, but nothing is built into the wall. That's all powered. Everything that is powered by whatever it is. So if it's like a laptop sized thing, it is powered by itself. Like it is picked up and move. You can pick it up and move it around as much as you needed to. There are no distinctive like built-in consoles. There are a lot of footprints in here. The footprints that you see are in this, because everything is dirt underneath, like the floor is all dirt. And you're seeing footprints that are roughly 6 foot high, people maybe a little shorter than that, 2-legged. They definitely wear shoeing. You'd see that. It doesn't look to have a lot of tread on it, so it's very like almost like leathered shoes. But everything else is written, that you see a type of kanji on the consoles. So like where their buttons would be, it is tactile. None of the things you're seeing are touchscreen interfaces. So it's all switches and clickers and stuff like that. So it's
keyboards instead of LCARs.
It's keyboards instead of LCARs. A lot of switches on things. Everything appears to have labels that you don't really understand.
So this looks like technology that is not primitive, but primitive compared to Starfleet.
Yeah, it's you're talking maybe like 70 to 100 years behind where you guys are, maybe a little bit more than that. So think like original series type stuff.
Okay.
So maybe a little bit farther back than that, but forgetting the fact that Enterprise has way more advanced technology than the original series does.
Yeah. So all of the equipment is self-powered. Are they currently powered on?
Yes. Well, they are at least in a standby mode. There are blinking lights and things like that.
I would like to do a telepathy scan.
Okay.
I can't.
You don't get any sentience other than the three of you. Well, the 3 of you plus the security guards, which is questionable if they're sentient or not. There are a number of minds of creatures in the area, but none of them are like advanced sentience. It's predatory. It's more predatory, like tigers and things like that nature. Advanced intelligence, but still animal intelligence.
You are once again reminded that your daughter is a concentrated ball of
a nope zone.
Yeah.
You can't. She's got a block, right? You can't scan her.
Yeah, her mind is just a tangled web of psi stuff.
Okay, right.
Does it look like
More
the
like-
equipment here? Does it look like the equipment here has a centralized structure to it, or does it look like completely decentralized, like everything has its own function and nothing reports back to some main hub?
No, everything is independent.
Okay.
And you would note that despite the fact none of you are actually engineers, you would have some reference to what engineering tools look like. These look like, at the very least, like something like hydro spanners and, things that would
Maintenance
repair heavy machinery like starships.
Yeah, I think Kendall is going to try to see if she can get some kind of interface going with the machines.
Okay. One of them looks like a laptop, or something large, slightly larger than a laptop, like maybe like a Yamaha keyboard, but with a screen.
Ensign, I would caution against reading somebody else's mail.
Well, we're here to find out if they who's here.
I believe we should start with the literal writing on the wall before we go tapping into technology we don't understand and interfering in the privacy of creatures we do not yet know.
She glances at her mother, obviously hoping for support.
I would agree with the specialist here.
If you would like to help further, you can take some more recordings.
She turns to Varen. Are the markings on the walls, are they from the same time period as the markings on these computers?
Zoop, 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 zoop.
They are the same type of markings. Again, it's difficult to tell how old a carving is on rock.
But the sentence
like
structure and all that doesn't look like
it's
changed.
all
Yeah,
pretty
the
similar.
grammar,
Yeah.
vocabulary. Okay.
Yeah, it's some of the pictograph stuff looks like it's probably quite a bit more worn. But the more like the stuff that looks more like kanji is structurally the same.
The
The two writings are comparable enough that they would be understood by a contemporary civilization. Apologies, Ensign, you were saying.
I think Kendall's not going to take no for an answer on this. She's going to let out a loud scoff, and she's going to say, "Come on, Mom. We've got to interface with their technology if we're going to figure out what to do here."
There's a very judgmental eyebrow raised in Oniet's direction. Desavi's direction.
Or both, really.
Both eyebrows.
Dual eyebrow.
Wiggly eyebrows.
Distinctively raised individually in each of you.
Cadet, I do understand your exuberance, and I am equally curious. Yeah.
Is it cadet or is it ensign?
It's Ensign.
Okay.
Brian said cadet earlier.
I
so
did
that's
say
where I was
cadet
running with.
Okay.
That's my fault. Ensign is it's Ensign.
Okay.
Because you're no longer you've graduated, right? So you're no longer a cadet, but you're like graduated like 7 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Ensign.
Sorry.
Ensign, I do understand your exuberance, and to a degree, I share your curiosity. However, Specialist Varen is correct in that we need to respect this culture, especially considering how far physically we are removed from them. They likely have no idea that Starfleet exists, and the first impression we want to give them is not that we are disrespectful thugs here to rummage through their things. Please remember, the specialist is in charge where directive goes.
She crosses her arms and gets back to scanning.
While I am not a Starfleet officer myself, I would also remind you that Mother is not an official rank.
She just looks a little flushed and definitely turns around, gets back to skating.
So in proper Vulcan fashion, Varen will stand here for however many weeks it takes for her to learn this language.
You'll get the information and you can start putting together some basic situational stuff like, this tool is used for this or that. Without interfacing, you get enough information that through the tricorder that you can begin to interpret the kanji with a relative success. As far as like reading without the tricorder, that'll take you a long time. But, with the scans you've gotten, the tools you've got, you would obviously need more reference to get a more accurate. More examples mean more accuracy, obviously. But since you have something that references math, that makes it fairly easy. You understand the base 10 mathematics. You can get a fairly like 75% accuracy with the translations without interfacing anything else, like just with the writings on the interior of the structure, the pictographs and the writing on the outside of the structure, the writings, the markings on the tools, the markings on other things that are in the area. And what you don't find is any paper. You don't find any like writing utensils. There's no carving tools. So it's kind of are they writing things down? Are they just using the walls? How is it? You don't necessarily figure out that kind of stuff. But without interfacing with the technology itself, you're about as far as you're going to get, or without finding additional structures that have writing on them. It's taken several hours to get to this point. But do we have anything else we want to do on the ship?
That's generous of you.
Yes. Well, the tricorders work pretty fast, and you do have.
That's true.
You do interface
adaptive UT.
Yeah, and you do interface with the world's most advanced AI upstairs. So.
Yes, the SSH.
Yes. Actually, the SSH has been proving quite useful in this. One of the things that you'll note, and this is something that I'd forgotten the SSH. So, one of the things that you'll note is that some of the pictographs and kanji bear some resemblance to the primitive to the languages used by the robots aboard the Holleran station. They are not identical there, but they are at least two branches of a parent language. So you're interfacing between Eva, the SSH, Europa's crew, stuff like that. That is something that you would definitely get.
Yeah, I can see there being another conference with the captain and Foxwell, and then Eva on the intercom, and they're having this conversation, and then the SSH comes in and just actually is real hard.
Actually. So yeah. Anything you guys would like to do aboard ship or on ground?
Well, Varen is doing all of that. Dasave would like to get a read on the plant life. With her knowledge of medicine and the history of medicine, what plants might have medicinal value. They have not planted anything on this planet, correct?
Not as far as you can tell. Everything appears to be native to this planet. Your scans show pretty consistent genetic lineage from the plant life here. Nothing obviously transplanted in. There are some things with some medicinal value, but in the area that you're in, you're not finding a whole lot. I mean, obviously there's things that could be like mild pain relievers, a couple of mild stimulants, a lot of toxins like mushrooms and stuff like that. But it doesn't appear as though anything here is particularly harvested in that manner. Right. What you do find is a fair amount of things that are nutritious. Something that's akin to a banana, some edible mushrooms, some other like protein heavy nuts and things like that. So
is there a disposal site we can find?
That's a good question. There is in fact a place where you find discarded plant life, like casings for nuts and things of that nature. You would also probably find a fair amount of excrement.
We'll have to
take Ensign, if you like to learn more about the people.
Yeah, we'll have to take.
Yes. I don't imagine they would mind taking samples of that. Of all the things you can take samples of. It does appear
They're
to
these
be
weird creatures that came here and stole our poop.
right. That are very fascinated by our poops. You will note that the location of the refuse is away from water sources. It is well covered, and it is composting quickly. It is designed in a way that composts. So it is,
And it shows signs of waste matter produced by local plant life.
It shows, yeah.
Do
So
they eat meat?
there is
there
no evidence of, well, there would be evidence of meat in the scat, yes, in the leavings. Although there is no evidence of meat. There's no evidence of hunted foods on this planet so far.
There's no bones in this disposal pile.
Correct.
Is there meat protein in the?
There is protein, yes. The meat proteins, yes. So they're at least bringing some meat with them, or they're hunting it somewhere away from this site.
Okay. Question about the stonework. Does the stonework look like the stones were dug out using advanced methods like torches,
Plasma cutters.
torches?
They don't look like they've been dug out in that way, but they do appear to have been. They don't appear to have markings for having been moved through traditional means. So they probably were not moved. They were probably moved through technological means, but they don't look like. They look like they were mostly found stones.
Gotcha.
So it's a distinctive choice that they built this structure in a primitive sense using technological means.
That's what it seems like, yes.
Okay.
They could be neo-primitivists, deliberately seeking out old technology as a religious practice, maybe.
That is one of many possible conjectures.
Seems like awful lot of work to, if you're bringing a bunch of consoles and building a space dock, seems like an awful lot of work to use stones.
Perhaps it is simply a preference, has some other cultural significance. Is there evidence in the architecture that this was built using, more sophisticated architectural designs in support in the position it's facing as determined by the sun and the airflow and the acoustics?
To some extent, yes. There is definitely an advanced. There's obvious advanced understanding of those things. The door doesn't appear to be facing any particular sunward direction, but it does obviously, like you'll know inside some of that musky odor is less prevalent. The wind does not really. There's a little bit of a breeze inside, or not. It's kind of a breeze, but there's airflow inside, but it seems like it's mostly like bringing in more like fresher air and venting out any toxicities or rancid smells or anything like that. So it definitely has some of that advanced understanding of architecture and design. Yes.
Despite the materials used, this is a sophisticated structure. It is odd that there are no signs of long-term habitation, even short-term dwellings. Maintenance of starcraft often take many days at the very least, and this equipment does look like it is still operational. They must return on a relatively frequent basis.
Perhaps they sleep in their ship while they're here.
Perhaps.
It would suggest both this and the other agrarian planet that seems, at least from scans, to have no dwellings, that there is some sort of reverence for nature, whether it's religious or simply a desire to only take what you need from the land and nothing more.
That makes sense to me.
All the equipment here, does it just look like starship maintenance, or are there other? I mean, obviously, Feren's not letting anyone tap in, but is there evidence of like chemistry sets or survey equipment or other physical technology that would do something other than fix spaceships?
It looks pretty much dedicated to starship repair and maintenance.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Are there replicators?
There are not.
Is there evidence? Sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
Can we figure out where they're getting the resources for those repairs? Does it seem like they bring the resources with them, or are they extracting it from the environment?
There is no evidence of extraction on this planet.
Okay. Well, they could be bringing it from another world or bringing it with them overall.
That seems highly inefficient to set up a repair facility away from the substances you need to repair.
You're also noting that you don't find any waste material from Starship Repair here.
I don't know.
This facility is quite a conundrum.
Maybe it's not a repair facility at all. Maybe it's long-term storage of some kind.
You did a DNA analysis earlier, correct?
Yep.
Give me a roll. Difficulty is going to be 3.
Can I do a medicine check?
You can, in fact, a medicine check. In fact, I was going to suggest it. This is a reference to something that happened in a much earlier episode. So go ahead and give me the roll. It'll be comparing the DNA, some of the DNAs you've discovered here to something else. So
For doing a medicine check, I probably should.
You could assist, or you could do the roll, whatever.
Let your daughter do it, but a sister.
All right. She'll step forward to start it, and seeing Kendall's like no mind, she'll take a step back and make a go ahead hand gesture.
Okay.
Do the thing.
The tricorder will make it one easier, so your difficulty is actually 2.
I will spend 2 momentum on this, or 3 momentum.
For 2 dice?
3 momentum for 2 dice, yes.
Ouch, that's a terrible roll.
That is a bad roll.
You can assist. Yes.
No, like.
Yeah, I get you. You're asking.
I'm not asking you.
Yeah, I know. You're asking her.
Nobody asked you.
I got that. Mechanically speaking, you can.
Yes. I know.
Go back to role play.
She'll look at her. I don't know. There's something familiar about this DNA. All right, sure. Yeah, you're the expert, I guess.
A couple things here. Let's see.
You fail.
Let me show you how it's done.
Do you guys have anything that would possibly allow you to re-roll anything? I don't know what your values or your determination, anything like that. Do you guys have that kind of stuff?
She has no talents.
Right. You are talentless hack.
Oh. Ow. Quick study. I don't think any of my values would really assist me here.
So what the values would allow you to have a reason to spend determination, essentially.
Right.
Your talents are really what you'd be looking at there.
And remember,
my talents are. I think the talent that would apply here would be quick study.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that one is. So.
They're not fucking clickable.
They're not. You have to go do those on your own.
Sometimes you just fail a roll.
Sometimes you just fail a roll.
True.
I put them in the info and bio section.
Yeah, that's what I do. It would for Brian, for your game. That's what I was doing too. Was putting them in the info and bio section, so I had them referenced.
Good place for it. You also have the executive officer talent, or
yeah, no, I do have that now, don't I?
When another character within the, I can't spend a point of determination because I don't have any values. Actually, the book does give precedence for creating values and stuff on the fly for supporting characters.
Sure.
Can I can I go ahead and make the value it needs to be related to her mom.
Yes.
Hold on. Value.
So there, Mom.
I need. Yeah. So there, Mom. That's a good one. I like that.
Okay.
So the value is so there, Mom. So I would like to spend a point of determination to give me 2 successes on that.
Okay. So you'll be creating and using the value.
Yes.
I have to read how the values are created for those characters. Is that in the player's guide, or is that from one of their books?
No, that's like support. The supporting character rules are when they make an appearance, they can add something.
Yes.
So,
yeah, you're correct. You are correct.
So.
All right. So you spend determination, you get 2 successes. That gives you 3 total successes, which is 1 over what you required. Which means you have the 1 momentum, or you can use it for additional questions. The DNA that is referenced specifically here is DNA that is found in the ground, or in or on the ground around the large rib structure. So it is not the humanoid DNA that you discovered earlier. It is actually the DNA where the ships would be sitting. It is similar to that of the Aren that you found earlier.
The Aren, that's the whales, right?
Yes.
Interesting.
It is not exactly, but it is certainly similar, like very, very similar.
This doesn't make any sense. This DNA's, I don't know. It seems like a little related to the Aren of some kind.
They were entirely biological, right?
They were entirely biological. Okay. And not inhabited.
And
Nobody
would
lived
not
on the
be
space whales.
would not be maintained by starship maintenance.
Correct.
Tools.
Correct.
Okay.
So this DNA is not exact matches for the Aren, but it is certainly something. Whatever is here is derived from Aren DNA. And again, this is where the starships themselves actually sat.
Interesting. I will go ahead and note that to everybody else.
Sort of quasi-biological, technological ships.
More like a
from the same world?
No, I'm trying to think of it like more like ambergris.
So
what if,
something that they give off,
something that is probably harvested from an Aren.
Fueled by rather than made of.
Correct.
What if they bring the Aren here, or the similar creatures, harvest them here? We found no evidence that they're actually repairing anything, just a girder-shaped structure.
But there is technological starship maintenance tools here, not biological extraction tools here.
Correct.
Medicinal surgical tools here.
Correct. This looks more like something that would be like a runoff, akin to like if your car was leaking oil in the front yard, kind of thing.
Okay. I have no idea what this could be.
So doing a scan of it, it looks more like a biological lubricant or
some kind of rendered
or coolant,
something that is clearly rendered from the Aren. What it's actually used for, it could be a fuel, it could be a lubricant, it could be something along those lines.
I feel like that's something a tricorder would be able to, because the chemical composition of a lubricant and a combustible is pretty different.
Well, oil is lubricant and it's still flammable, so
yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah,
it is definitely something rendered from Aren. As far as what its actual purpose is, it's probably either a it's probably not a coolant, but it's probably either some kind of like base fuel or like lubricant of some kind. So
we'll make sure to take some samples with us back to the ship.
Yeah, it's also contaminated pretty heavily with the dirt that's in the area, because this is mostly DNA, it's DNA, not like pools of anything.
Yeah. Sure, my point stands.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that makes it makes the final analysis a little bit more difficult.
That would might explain why these planets are inhabited. The RN are nomadic if they're following herds, as it were, and then coming back here. If this is part of the herd circuit, they swing back through here, do whatever maintenance and such they need to when the RN stop to graze. We should have kind of stops mid-sentence and comes back up to the ship.
Jack changes posture. Nice.
Captain, refresh my memory. What was it the RN were feeding off of? There were signatures, right?
Shit, I gotta find my notes for that.
Stand by, Doctor. Let me access my logs.
It was the weapons they were using. The planet was producing something that was attracting them. It was, yeah, I remember that.
I know they were using, I believe they were using a gas giant to help in the birthing process. Right. Whether that was, hiding from predators, if there was some sort of sustenance or an analgesic in there, or whether the gravitational pull or radiation aided in some way. I don't know if we ever actually figured out what that was all about.
Yeah, they got a call,
yeah,
and signals interfered, and they got confused and terrified.
Yes, there was something about the planetary radiation, like the planetary emissions. So what you guys had determined was that it seemed like it was because it was a pre-warp civilization, but right. They were doing a lot of like radio transmissions and terrestrial transmission type stuff, and that appeared to have been interfering with the RN, who once you had managed to reduce or eliminate most of that interference, they went to the gas. They spent their time with the gas giant instead of attacking the planet, where the larger one was going to do.
We did identify some sort of food source local to that system because we collected some with the Bussard collectors and used it to make a trail leading out of the system.
Right.
I don't know if we ever identified what that food source was or where it came from. We just, I mean, in a narrative perspective and a narrative point, but right. We know what that food substance is.
Right.
Yes.
Do we find evidence of that at all?
Either
on planet or in system.
Europa does a quick scan around the system, and there is at least some. This gas giant, though, is very similar. The gas giant that these moons are on is actually very similar in nature to the gas giant from the other planet, the other system.
All three of these building facilities are around this gas giant. That seems significant.
It's getting warm in here. Whilst you are scanning the system in the Europa, you do note that since now you're looking more, you're more actively looking for these kinds of things. You do note that there is some of that residual energy that the RN used for their because the RN were faster, seemed to have faster than warp capability for biological creatures, which is very unusual. Some of that residue does appear to be, or some of that signature does appear to be near the outskirts of the system. It's not recent, but there definitely have been some RN traveling near the system within the last within a couple of days prior to your arrival.
Days. Since it's only days old, is there any evidence of warp trail particles we can pick up?
Not currently.
Okay.
Yeah. Not artificial warp trails, just the warp from the
Okay.
Aren.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
the quote unquote warp.
All right, Doctor, I've had the scientists put together a preliminary summary of our findings. It does seem that there is evidence of Aren in the system, both a limited supply of their food source. The gas giant here is very similar to the one they were found at, and it seems they have been in system within the last few days.
I believe, and Specialist Varen, you are the expert here, but I believe we may be dealing with a nomadic society that follows, or I don't think so much herds, probably follows these Aren and uses their leavings, refuse for fuel or lubrication for their ships.
It's an interesting find. That doesn't to me sound like a sustainable civilization, perhaps a profession within one, or our specialist would have a better mind to make conjecture on that.
Yeah. If that was the route you're going, you could speculate that it could be the primary purpose of think of the tribes that hunted buffalo. I mean, it's a similar mentality.
Mhm.
It could be something similar to that. There would have to be there'd have to be more infrastructure than you're currently seeing
Mhm.
for building ships or maintaining ships. Again, you don't have any material here. So either they're taking the material with them or they're discarding it somewhere off world, which is entirely possible because again, they seem to have some, leave as little behind kind of ethos.
Mhm.
So like the only waste you've found is biological waste so far. So
Exactly what Varen was going to say.
yes. So with that, anything else you guys want to do on planet? Any scenes you guys want to have on the ship? We're reaching a point where we're fast hitting a wall.
I feel like we've gotten everything on the planet.
Yeah. At least on this planet.
No.
Do we want to do Berry Bush tonight, or should we save that?
9:37.
Yeah. It's up to you guys. I don't work tomorrow, so
I mean, I'm good to
I
keep
do.
going.
Evelyn does.
I'm always good.
So let's beam back up to the ship. Go ahead. The crew, Varen and the doctor and whatnot, beam back up to the ship. You've got a lot of information in tow. Continue. Sorry. Europa will continue conducting scans in the system. Let's. Dr. Foxwell is going to come find Desavi. Where is Dr. Foxwell? He will come to your office, which I did actually get an XO office. Look at that. It's Chakotay's office.
Yeah, I have an office.
Commander, I have trying to decide if I was going to do a British accent with him or not. Anyway, for the moment, I will not. Doctor, I've been having some concerns with the reintegration of the SSH and Eva. They're separate systems, of course, but Eva. Watching her in action these last few days with the research programs and whatnot, it is clearly she is functioning well above our expectations. It's great to see. It's Dr. Maddox would be very pleased with her performance. I still see little to no evidence of genuine sentience, but she is clearly having moments where she is, I wouldn't say rewriting her code, but learning. She is definitely learning. As for the SSH is quite restricted. There's a lot of code in the SSH's matrix that is how to say dormant at the moment. Clearly, he had written it had written a number of codes using its heuristic algorithms to better maintain the station. It learned a great deal and created new sub-functions and subroutines to be able to manage the station more efficiently. I am a little concerned that if the SSH were to be given a wide access to the ship's systems, that some of these may morph, some of these dormant programs may, subroutines may morph into something more, I don't want to say invasive, it's not the right word, but permanent. Permanent is my concern.
We've seen on Voyager that the Doctor very frequently interjected himself into conversations he wasn't supposed to be listening in on.
Right.
Would it make sense for the SSH to just materialize?
That's up to you.
I don't want to shoehorn myself into this scene.
That's up to you guys.
I think you should.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm always here for the drama.
Yeah, so Foxwell stops speaking and then SSH hologram materializes. Is he doctor? Is he commander? What is he?
He
Foxwell.
should be
Lieutenant?
He's Lieutenant Foxwell at the moment, although I was gonna promote him to Lieutenant Commander, but I'll do that on screen. He is Lieutenant, he is a doctor though, so it is Dr. Foxwell or Lieutenant Foxwell.
Dr. Foxwell, if you have concerns about my programming or my ethics, you can simply come talk to me.
I do believe we discussed knocking first.
Oh,
You see, Doctor, one of my concerns is this exact kind of behavior here. SSH program, ends program, which of course he does not, unless you want to. Again, I did not approach the SSH because with these concerns, because again, you are the head of personnel, and as I am to understand, the captain has deemed the SSH to be personnel for the moment. And to be fair, the EMH was also considered personnel aboard most ships when active.
I suppose it is in my best interest to remain active.
Dr. Foxwell makes a good point. If you wish to be treated like crew, however, you will be held to the same standards. The rest of the crew does not get to just wander into my office and disrupt a conversation between senior officers. A conversation that Dr. Foxwell rightly brought to me as the XO and the head of personnel.
Also, Foxwell is technically the chief science officer. So, senior personnel.
A breach of protocol. I apologize. I'm not used to having senior staff other than myself to worry about.
It is an adjustment. I understand.
I will leave you to your conversation, but I would appreciate input of my own if I am the subject of such conversations. I believe it is a humanoid characteristic that one not enjoy when people talk behind their back.
You are correct. However, by the same token, it is standard protocol for two senior officers to discuss concerns of their subordinates amongst themselves before determining a course of action. The alternative is I give Dr. Foxwell, as by all technicalities, your direct commanding officer, free reign to deal with you as he wished, and I don't think you want.
Quite. Very well. Doctor.
Foxwell looks around a little bit like, anyways.
Computer, engage privacy mode.
Eva acknowledges and then there's a distinctive change in sound in the room. Because remember, the computer is Eva.
Yes. No, I forgot that for a second. Apologies, Eva.
So, yeah, Eva heard all that too.
Dr. Foxwell, we are in uncharted territory in more ways than one.
I agree.
I understand your concerns. I share some of your concerns. Given I have a more humanistic, as it were, understanding, or not really understanding,
Appreciation.
interpretation. What's that?
Is it appreciation?
Appreciation, that too. Of sentience, and you have a more scientific and pragmatic one. We sit not on opposite ends of the table, but not quite on the same side. At present, the captain has agreed to give the SSH a little more leeway, a little more freedom. He will not be given a body to wander about the ship. However, there is opportunity. There is a word that I can't.
Doctor, if I may, the primary concern that I have at the moment is the SSH's program is advanced enough. While it is still, heuristic coding and things like that, it is not to the level of brains. It is definitely extremely advanced, and if it was given, I'm concerned that given additional resources, it could very easily act in a fashion that would be indistinguishable from godly aboard this ship. We gave Eva a great deal of control over the ship, but there was always an opportunity to disconnect the program, to disconnect the main core of Eva, the positronic net that is her, to back up, to rely on the backup of the secondary core. The secondary core is now accessible, or could potentially be accessible, by this new program, this new self-created intelligence, possible intelligence anyways, intelligence of some variety. Dr. Zimmerman's work is outstanding. The concern I have now is that we now have, or we potentially have, two intelligence, two personalities aboard a single ship. It is as if you had a second personality aboard your own brain. Your left side and your right side of your brain were different beings. Whilst one at the moment is in control of everything, it would not take a lot for the other to assert some level of dominance. The idea of a body actually, there's a great deal of thought that needs to go into that before I say any more words. My concern is that Dr. Zimmerman's work may be too good. While it does not use positronic learning, and it does not have the adaptability of, say, Commander Data or Eva, it is, to the layman, nearly indistinguishable for many, especially if it is given the power of the Europa's secondary core. And forbid, God knows, if it were to find a way into the positronic network through the biogel packs, which are a relay for both networks. They both funnel into the bioneural gel packs to make processing. It's complicated. I'm sure you. You're not an engineer, I understand, but the way this works, he could find greater function, and there are still elements of the Halloran station in Eva's code that I have not been able to ascertain what they do. This is one of the reasons I have been looking into the SSH's programming, because he has similar qualities. His are more direct. I am to understand that the original control of Halloran Station was actually a biological creature that was used to augment the artificial intelligence, kind of a hybrid. I am concerned that with Eva's positronic matrix and the Halloran Station's code that is in her system, as well as the systems, the heuristic algorithms and the code that has been created by the SSH, there is definitely too much compatibility between the two systems. It concerns me.
Would you recommend then?
I believe the safest
disconnecting
the safest course of action would be to reset both programs to their original and eliminate all traces of the Halloran code.
That is something that will take a great deal more discussion, and I'm not comfortable authorizing at the moment. As we discussed the other day, the ethics of the thing need to be sussed out. However, would you recommend disconnecting the SSH from the ship entirely and putting his intelligence in a contained vessel?
I believe it might purchase you more time. However, he has access to the ship. He understands how to use computers. He is essentially a program. If he were to in any way be malicious, it would only be a temporary. There's no good way to prevent him from having the access necessary should he look hard enough for it.
Can you?
There's really no way to prevent Eva from having the access. This is
Also true.
concerning. He takes out his pad and starts writing something down. Oversight.
Can you create safeguards around the secondary core to prevent, at least for a time, the SSH accessing it?
I certainly can attempt to do so. We have similar safeguards in place to prevent an overrun of something like Eva. We would simply have to program them for additional attacks. I must study the Halloran code more closely. There's so much. It is so much beyond. The functionality of that station is well beyond what any of us have ever experienced. The foremost authority on the station now is the SSH, and to a lesser extent Eva, with what code has remained in her systems. But she, because of the nature of the retreat that Tong and the group helped her do, the code that is there is less is dormant, I guess. Again, the SSH is only dormant. The code in the SSH is only dormant because he doesn't have access to things to allow it to expand into it. He has a limited amount of processor space, for lack of a better term. He was much larger, I guess, when he had more space. If he were to be given more space, he could make them more active again. Putting him in a robot body, for lack of a better term, without getting deep into the study of the actual mechanics of the device that he's going into, those Halloran devices, those Halloran machines are far more advanced than even Mr. Data was on a specification standpoint. Perhaps the positronic networking isn't as advanced, but the physical circuitry is far more advanced than anything we currently function with. My suggestion, Doctor, and again, I know that you do not wish to go this route yet, but if you would take it to the captain, my deepest concern is that these two artificial intelligences are corrupted in a way that we do not understand, and they have access to parts of they have access to the very thing we float around in space in. While it is limited access, either of them could assert control far beyond that which we intended. Eva is still enough like herself that I understand where she is in her process of advancement, and she is still within the acceptable parameters of control. The safeties are still in place. The SSH, I do not know what his capabilities are. Dr. Zimmerman's work is extraordinary, but the work that we are seeing that has happened since his time on the station is new territory.
Out of character question, and I am probably going to fuck this all up because I'm out of my sci-fi depth.
Sure. This is the weeds.
Right. Does Star Trek AI have, in theory, the same limitations as like Asimov's robots, where like the first rule is you don't harm humans?
Technically, no. It would depend on the creator of the AI. So Zimmerman,
I think Data had something very similar. It wasn't verbatim
Yeah.
Asimov's, but I believe it was mentioned something very similar to Asimov's laws. Zimmerman's holograms are a lot looser
yeah,
in every regard.
because they're not designed to be anything but supplementary programs. They're tools. They're not designed to be real AIs.
It was an unintended, unexpected fluke that the EMH of Voyager developed into a sentient being.
Right. And since Voyager hasn't come back yet, we don't have that as a reference.
Yeah.
Eva does have restrictions placed on her, both physically and programmably, similar to those of Data, because she is based in every single way on the Sung type android. So she is based on Data. For all intents and purposes, she is based on Data. She's just Data scaled up to 24 because it's a fucking ship.
It's worth noting that Data beat up the crew on a regular basis.
A very regular basis. There was at least one episode where Data just took the ship and said, "Go screw yourself, guys. I'm going home. You guys can figure this out when I get there."
Yeah.
And there was nothing anybody could do about it. So that was extenuating circumstances, but it was a thing.
There's always extenuating circumstances.
Always.
I think there's more hard-coded into Data's program. He's obviously adaptable, but there's more hard programmed into Data than there is the Zimmerman holograms. Yeah. The Zimmerman holograms are much more adaptive because they didn't expect to need those restrictions for temporary tools.
Data was also programmed with a personality and the memories of actual people. So he has a morality that comes from organic life.
Zimmerman also did that with using Zimmerman's own mental template, and then Bashir, and then it was referenced there were several other people that he mind scanned.
Right. So it is similar technology in that fashion. So they both have that, or at least in some regards have that that base human morality that is overlaid. So
I think the answer to the basic question is though, no, it can still be overridden.
Yeah, they both could technically override it if they wanted to. Like Data could override his, and
The thing about Asimov's robots is there was literally no way they could be overridden. It was, that's not true for either of those cases.
Right. Even RoboCop had the prime his 3 directives that he couldn't override, and then the 4th one that could be overridden. Well, actually couldn't be overridden either. Just they fired the guy, so it didn't work. It worked out for the end, but they don't necessarily have anything that is that hard coded. There are physical limitations, and then there are moral limitations that have been programmed into them, but they're not like do no harm, and they're not the kind of things that are going to lead to you guys getting wiped out for your own protection.
Right.
The EMH, the doctor, was programmed with a fairly rigid adherence to the Hippocratic Oath, but I believe on occasions he was persuaded to bend it. So it's not necessarily a hard-coded.
I didn't watch enough episodes of Voyager to really I watched all of season 1, part of season 2, and then I've seen episodes since then, but I don't know enough about that to really be able to speak on it.
He was reprogrammed a couple times to do shit like that. So he's, I would say, on the same level of Data in that regard.
Yeah. And again, when you start adding in the Holleran station to these 2 AIs, all bets are off. So
I will take your concerns under advisement, Doctor. I will discuss possibilities with the captain, and we will go from there.
Just again, that's all that's all I ask is to be aware that this could be a problem.
I appreciate the caution. We are definitely aware that, as I said, we are in incredibly uncharted water.
In the meantime, I will attempt to come up with some fail-safe ideas. I do have one in mind. It is extreme, though, as it would almost assuredly cripple the Europa wherever we are. We would lose all data on both cores, and that would be catastrophic. But it is an option.
Save that for an absolute last resort.
Yes. However, do I have your permission to begin configuring such a failsafe? I have the ability. It is not currently set up. I can't just activate that. That would be... I would need permission for that.
I would like you to prioritize some less extreme fail-safes first.
Of course.
I thought we spent a good couple sessions creating a bunch.
Oh, you guys have a fun bunch of fail safes. You guys have tons of your own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For Eva.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I imagine there would be some crossover there.
Yeah.
But still, like, again, in the end, like that's how you have the privacy settings that you have. Like you turn off, like, the stuff that you just did. So yeah, and you do a lot of stuff on paper. Like you actually have handwritten notes and stuff that you guys use that don't go through the ship. So you guys do have some level of security for that. But there's always the possibility that more could happen. So, and Foxwell is, clearly paranoid.
Very true.
I mean, not unwarranted.
So far it has been.
I feel like somebody needs to speak for the sentient crew members.
So, all right.
It'll last like 20 minutes.
So, anything else you want to add to that, or we end that scene?
No, I'm good with that scene.
All right. Anybody else have any other scenes they want to do, or should we shut it down there?
I'm always up for a character building scene.
Sure. What you got? Who would
Let's
you like?
see.
You know who we haven't seen in a long time? I don't know if you have anything for him or not, but we
10 o'clock
haven't.
and we need to do wrap up yet. Just saying.
Yeah, we haven't seen Kostra in a while. I don't know if you have anything for him.
Yeah, Coaster would be interesting. I think he might go up to Oniet, Dr. Oniet.
Okay.
I think he has some questions for her, actually.
All right, we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll call it a night after that scene.
Yeah, he's going to sidle on up to sick bay, where I imagine Dr. Oniet still spends a good portion of her time. Am I wrong?
Probably not as much as you would like to anymore.
Well, he will track her down wherever she is, and then complain that she wasn't where he was expecting her. So, boy, you are a hard woman to track down these days.
You would argue we have these nifty little badges and a very intelligent computer that could track anyone down. All you have to do is ask. And she's got
Yeah,
a
but that lacks the personal touch. What can I say?
fair enough.
So, I heard there was some fancy stonework down on the surface.
Yes, very interestingly fancy stone.
You look, I'm no geek. I don't know what you found down there. But I am curious what you think of all this.
It's very interesting. Not quite my field. I'm certain Specialist Varen is geeked or as geeked as a Vulcan is. There are a lot of unknowns. I think it may have raised a few more questions than answers. But on the surface, it seems we have discovered a potentially nomadic community that a race, nomadic people that follow these Aren around.
They just leave the planets where they found them. Don't settle down roots.
It doesn't seem so. And they seem to disrupt the planets as minimally as possible. The juxtaposition of the seemingly primitive stonework and the fairly advanced technology was quite fascinating, very surprising.
Well, back where I come from, the people who used to pretend that their soot don't stink, they had other people doing the work. I think you should consider that these people may not be as clean cut as they pretend to be.
It's a possibility. It wouldn't be the first instance where one race has essentially enslaved, might be a strong word, but employed another to do the hard work while they sit back and reap the reward.
The other thing I've noticed about nomadic cultures, we had one back on Ardana back after First City was destroyed the first time. They tend to be pretty territorial. Don't like people messing up their stuff.
Indeed.
Well, our engines running on in the green. Is there? How you like in the commander chair? Glad you took it. They nearly. I was worried for a second, but they offered it to me.
I think that means they would have to get you out of your engineering hole first.
I know, right? It would have been a disaster.
It's an adjustment. One I am hoping will be temporary, but we shall see.
How temporary are we talking? You've been sitting in it a little while. Do you like the feel of the curve on your butt?
The chair in my office in the med bay is much more broken in. But the captain is a good leader and makes a difficult job a good leader.
Yeah, keeps out of my business, so that I like about him. Well, you're doing a good job.
Note to self: harass engineering more.
Well, you're doing a good job from what I can see down in the engineering room. Just wanted to put that out there.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'd better get back to it. Those dilithium matrices aren't going to depolarize themselves.
If you need anything, let me know.
I
You are
will.
likewise, as always, doing an excellent job.
You keep that up and I might get a big head.
Bigger.
Was not going to say that.
That's all I wanted out of it. That's all I wanted out of it.
All right.
Okay.
Got a guy who's wearing a headband to keep his head from getting too large. All right. On that note, let's go ahead and wrap it up. What moment stands out most to you this evening? I know this was a lot of discovery, a lot of science, a lot of information, not a lot of conflict, but anything that stands out most to you.
think the discovery of the Aran DNA.
I don't think I described that very well either, so I may have to modify the way I talked about that earlier, because I'll make it clearer what that actually is in the next episode, probably.
Sure. Maybe with further study, we can narrow it down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And really to what I've always wanted it to be, and trying to get that hint out there. I don't think those things matched very well. So with more study, you will learn more.
I was likewise going to say the correlation between the Halloran writing and the writing here.
Yeah.
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 Finding descendants of that culture could be huge.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited for all of this. Anything else that you guys have that stands out? Who best embodied? Go ahead.
I don't know if this fits into this category or a different one, but I really liked the mechanical to role-playing ratio we had, especially when we were like scanning the planets. That could have been like a really tedious exercise.
Yeah.
But I thought it went really smoothly, and I really enjoyed how we all interacted with that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to maintain the balance between roles and science roles can very easily, because if you get information, it can very easily just get into and I roll. And I really don't want to do that, because I think that is not the way it should be done. So I'm trying to give as much information as I can and make the roles as broad yet focused as possible, if that makes any sense.
I think you did a great job. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed.
It's one of the things that makes Star Trek hard to run, because in the show they just have writers who tell them everything, and I have to actually tell you guys everything. All right, so who best embodied their character tonight? I thought Dasavi was pretty good. I don't know anybody got a ton of screen. I liked Varen a lot of the.
I thought Varen did great. Like
I like getting to see more of her.
Yeah.
For somebody who hasn't gotten much screen time, I really liked her. I liked her no nonsense attitude, and I thought she was great.
I've really been waiting to bring out my Vulcan, because I can do a Vulcan.
You can.
I enjoy doing Vulcan.
Absolutely.
You did that very well.
I can channel my inner Tuvok.
Mhm.
I think one of my favorite
I was
characters
going
is
to-
my Vulcan.
Mhm. I was going to say, Brian, I really like all of these scenes today with Silva in
I did like
the Hollow
that.
Chamber.
Yeah.
That was amazing. The little outburst that Kendall had. Mom, come on.
Yeah.
I loved it.
That's my want to see more from.
Yeah.
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 I really
you.
enjoyed that.
Thank you. I enjoyed the character moments I got to do.
So with
Mother
that,
is not an appropriate Starfleet designation.
yeah.
That was a great response. I
was.
loved it. I loved it.
So with that transition, what do you guys want to see more of in the future? Obviously, Ev, you want to see more of that. So go ahead and describe that. Talk about that.
Definitely more hologram, center to the earth stuff.
Yeah.
And super awkward, embarrassed Tong.
Yeah.
Super and awkward, embarrassed, confused Tong.
I would really like to explore the idea of like confusing holodeck flirting with like real life flirting, and like, because that's gotta fuck with a guy's head, and like I'd love to explore that a little.
Yeah.
I don't know. I totally don't know what that's like at all.
So Ev, you were going to say?
I really liked that dynamic that we're starting to showcase here. I think if I am interpreting it correctly, the kind of typical kid's gone off to college, now essentially has come home, and in the extreme, because now I'm not just living under mom's roof, mom's my CO.
Right.
And navigating that.
Yeah, that taste of freedom only to have it quelched.
Right.
I would love for like a personnel conflict to come up with her.
Yeah.
Like
So I got
that-
ideas.
Something that Oniad has to solve.
Ambrose is going to continue smushing you guys together.
Yeah.
Thanks, bud.
Cannot
That
wait.
whole thing I said about you being a wonderful leader, I take it all back.
So
The most okayest captain.
he's the very most mediocre captain.
No.
I'm really enjoying seeing Dasavi play, maybe not middleman, but arbiter weighing both sides of the conversation between Foxwell's super crazy paranoid bigotry and Brainiac, possibly evil new SSH.
Right. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that stuff play out. Yeah, for sure.
Legit.
Um,
I have an. Oh, I should make this up a note. 'Cause I have an
I'm-
idea and I'll
I'm
forget it
just
in
saying.
cases.
I feel like the SSH would be a lot more reasonable if you just talk to him and just stop trying to shove him into cages.
I'm working on it. All right.
I would love. We didn't see any of it this session, but I would love to see some interaction between Delphine and Oniet. There hasn't been much of that lately. And
Yeah.
No, we really haven't.
yeah. So I'd like to see that, and like how Delphine and Oniet are dealing with the change in roles.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because my headcanon is, even though she is not a doctor, we don't really have another doctor.
And she's head nurse, right?
She's head
She's head
nurse.
nurse.
Yeah.
Nurse.
She would be next in line.
Yeah, no, that's my headcanon is Sabi's basically been like, you run the med bay, hon. Let me know if shit starts fire.
Yeah. There would have to be some level of doctor on board, but they
Right.
probably are not the chief of the
Medical.
medical
EMH.
station.
I would
EMH.
imagine there could be. I can imagine there would be a there could be a chief medical officer who is not a doctor. That makes
Yes,
sense.
I would think so. And there are probably doctors underneath them, like because you
Right.
had all doctors before, because you had Dr. Marr as well as Onayet. So there's probably another doctor on there somewhere, or at least some kind of like residency intern kind of deal where there's a doctor.
I miss my Mar.
Maybe we can make
Yeah,
a
that's smart.
supporting character if somebody wants.
Yeah.
Somebody.
I might throw together an NPC for that for a little while.
I do have a doctor character in mind,
Yeah.
actually,
Do it.
from
Do it.
before we got the last guy in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should 100% do it. Do it, please. I beg you, please.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll sort
Um,
something out.
We haven't seen any Jisa in a while
Yeah,
Yeah, we do that. Mhm.
yeah.
in either context, whether it is awesome badass pilotry or more aggressive flirting.
Yes.
I think it would be great to have a double date, but it would be two of me and two of Brian. Trying to it would be a mess.
I
Yeah,
don't think that would work. But it
that's
is
one of those
fun.
things that we
It would
here's
work great in a show, but not
Right.
at this
yeah
table.
here's how we do
unfortunately.
that scene. I think we totally do it. We have the scene where it's the first couple talking about the second couple talking about the first couple, and then they meet up together, and we end the scene where they answer going in to have their
Mm.
date.
Mm.
That could be really fun. Don't actually have the date itself, but have the lead up right before the date,
Yeah.
And the aftermath.
in the aftermath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I hate those two. All right. So with that, what did you see from another character or player? We did that one. We did that one. If you could change one thing about the session, what would it be?
More, always more.
Yeah,
With tech issues.
We did a lot of this in this
pretty
in this
happy.
episode.
We did.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like I'm begging for action, but action's good.
Yeah, there's more action coming. So
Okay.
I
Yeah, I
More
don't.
lasers.
so we need to set up. I need to set up the context of the place you are at before I introduce the conflict of where you are at.
Sure. I did not mean that as a criticism for this session. I love low-key no combat sessions, and that but I was just saying as like a general thing
Yeah,
I would like to see eventually.
yeah. For me, when it comes to Star Trek, combat is the sometimes candy food. So
It doesn't even necessarily have to be combat, is what I'm saying. though.
True.
Just like an action scene.
Just
Like,
moments
Yeah.
of tension. Yeah.
we could,
yeah.
we could have a shuttle race, not a shuttle race, but like a high-speed shuttle escape from the fake asteroids. Or,
Sure.
you know,
I mean, first contact done correctly is super tense.
Yes. Well, that's coming. So
Yeah.
maybe
but-
climbing to one of the sites we're investigating. We can't beam there. We
Yeah.
have to get there on the ground.
possible. There's certainly some other opportunities for that kind of thing going forward. This section of world is, it's easy. It's on the easy setting for a reason. So that'll all come into context next session. So,
Okay, cool.
I don't have anything else. Anything you guys want to add? Anything you want to say before we go? Any last shout outs you have? Shout out to the geese.
Space geese.
Space
They're
geese.
definitely
The
louder.
well-timed geese who agreed with with what Dasabi was saying.
Did they? Or did they agree?
That's how I interpreted it.
Gotcha.
I have some mechanics questions regarding advancement because we haven't really been paying attention to that
Sure.
for a while. We can do that. I don't know if you want to do
We'll
that.
do that
off camera.
off. We'll do it off camera.
All right.
All right. So with that, without any further ado, let's go ahead and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Those of you who are missing out on some of the episodes that are backlogged, it's because I've been sick and haven't gotten them up. They'll get posted sometime this weekend, actually. And other than that, keep your eye open on the channels. We'll get more stuff coming soon. So long, and thanks for all the fish.